Hi everybody, and welcome to our Costa Rica presentation. Is Costa Rica a good investment opportunity? I'd like to thank you for coming this evening or this afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in, and we are enjoying your day or your evening so far. We conduct these webinars every Thursday, and they last for 40 minutes, and we try to stick very tightly to that schedule and begin and end promptly. You can always find our upcoming webinars on the front page of our website. If you look at www.costaricainvest.ie, you can find what webinars we've got coming up. Also on that front page of our website, if you look in the free downloads and media area of our website, you can get recordings of previous webinars that we've held. Now, for those of you who are new to webinars, there's a little control panel on the right-hand side of your screen, and you can enter questions there throughout the webinar. We will have time for a short question and answer session at the end of the webinar, and we'll get to those questions at the end. So if anything crops up, you have any questions, to type them into that little panel there, and we'll get to those questions at the end of the webinar. Should any of you want to travel to Costa Rica, we would of course be delighted to show you our projects. Just send us an email to info@costaricainvest.ie, and we'll put Tracy from Everything Costa Rica in contact with you. Tracy really has the inside track on all the best hotels, hotel rates, car hire, tours and travel. In a nutshell, everything Costa Rica. And you can contact us, as I mentioned, by sending us an email, or alternately, again, if you go to the front page of our website and have a look in the services area, you'll find a little button that says Travel to Costa Rica. And if you click on that, it brings you to a page like this, where you can enter your details, and there's some suggestions as to things you'd like to do whilst you're in Costa Rica. Now, it's not an exhaustive list. There's plenty of other things to do as well. In addition, Everything Costa Rica organizes our tours of the Pacific region, and this is a 5-day tour, 4 nights of Costa Rica, and you can see all sorts of properties in the Central Pacific area and decide if any of them are for you. And again, Tracy from Everything Costa Rica organizes those. So, on to the question at hand: is Costa Rica a good investment opportunity? First of all, a little bit of background about me. My company is Costa Rica Invest, and my name is James Cahill. We're an international sales and marketing company, and we have for the last 4 years specialized in selling Costa Rica investments. We now have sales consultants working in Canada, the USA, United Kingdom, Costa Rica, and Ireland. Primarily, we specialize in ecological hybrid investments and development opportunities, and the companies that we choose to work with all have a very high level of success. We're sticklers for detail, and we always do a thorough due diligence before we agree to work with or represent any company. We only look at opportunities in Costa Rica that have a high potential yield for our clients, and particularly those that have an ecological aspect to us. In addition to selling, we're a referral service for all things Costa Rica, including legal assistance, immigration, travel, and investment and banking advice. So today, we're going to talk about Costa Rica as an investment opportunity. I'm going to cover a little bit of background on Costa Rica. We're going to talk generally about the economy of Costa Rica. And we're going to, of course, talk about real estate. And at the end of the webinar, we will cover some specific real estate opportunities. So let's move on. Costa Rica, where is it? Well, it's in Central America. It's the oldest and most stable democracy in Central and Southern America. It has more teachers than policemen, and it's often referred to as the Switzerland of Latin America. The literacy rate in Costa Rica is over 96%, and this year, as per last year, they will spend more than 25% of their entire national budget on education. Costa Rica has a fantastic climate. It's tropical year-round, and it has many microclimates. People in Costa Rica live longer than most other places in the Western Hemisphere and live to an average age of 79 years. Costa Rica is located at the intersection of 2 large continents and contains over 5% of the world's biodiversity. That's an incredible 1 in 20 of every living thing on this planet. Now, Costa Rica also ranks really highly in a number of polls, and they're the country that practically invented ecotourism. They're now ranked 3rd in the world in terms of environmental performance, and that study is carried out every 2 years by Yale University. 4 years ago now, they were ranked 5th in the world. 2 years ago, they were ranked 3rd in the world, so we're all anxiously awaiting to see where they come in this year. Costa Rica is the 7th most politically and socially stable country in the world, and that's according to the Economist Intelligence Unit. And that's a figure that often shocks people. People just can't believe it when you say that the 7th most politically and socially stable country in the world is located in Central America. But it's true, and that country is Costa Rica. Now, we're going to play a short video from Nick Marks from the NEF group, because also Costa Rica is ranked number 1 in the Happy Planet Index, and this compares the ecological footprint of a nation to its happiness. This is a new way of looking at the economic success of a country, and I thought you might be interested in seeing a short part of this video, and Nick Marks is going to tell us a little bit about the Happy Planet Index and why Costa Rica ranks so high.
Martin Luther King did not say, "I have a nightmare," when he inspired the civil rights movements. He said, "I have a dream." And I have a dream. I have a dream that we can stop thinking that the future will be a nightmare. And this is going to be a challenge, because if you think of every major blockbusting film of recent times, nearly all of its visions for humanity are apocalyptic. I think this film is one of the hardest watches of modern times, The Road. It's a beautiful piece of filmmaking, but everything is desolate. Everything is dead. And just a father and son trying to survive, walking along the road. And I think the environmental movement, of which I am a part of, has been complicit in creating this vision of the future. For too long, we have peddled a nightmarish vision of what's going to happen. We have focused on the worst case scenario. We have focused on the problems. And we have not thought enough about the solutions. We've used fear, if you like, to grab people's attention. And any psychologist will tell you that fear in the organism is linked to the flight mechanism. It's part of the fight and flight mechanism. That when an animal is frightened, think of a deer. A deer freezes very, very still, poised to run away. And I think that's what we're doing when we're asking people to engage with our agenda around environmental degradation and climate change. People are freezing and running away because we're using fear. And I think the environmental movement has to grow up and start to think about what progress is. What would it be like to be improving the human lot? And one of the problems that we face, I think, is that the only people that cornered the market in terms of progress is a financial definition of what progress is, an economic definition of what progress is. That somehow, if we get the right numbers to go up, we're going to be better off. Whether that's on the stock market, whether that's with GDP and economic growth. That somehow life is going to get better. This is somehow appealing to human greed instead of fear, that more is better. Come on, in the Western world we have enough. Maybe some parts of the world don't, but we have enough. And we've known for a long time that this is not a good measure of the welfare of nations. In fact, the architect of our national accounting system, Simon Kuznets, in the 1930s said that a nation's welfare can scarcely be inferred from their national income. But we've created a national accounting system which is firmly based on production and producing stuff. And indeed, this is probably historical. It had its time. In the Second World War, we needed to produce a lot of stuff. And indeed, we were so successful at producing certain types of stuff that we destroyed a lot of Europe and we had to rebuild it afterwards. And so our national accounting system became fixated on what we can produce. But as early as 1968, this visionary man, Robert Kennedy, at the start of his ill-fated presidential campaign, gave the most eloquent deconstruction of gross national product that ever has been. And he finished his talk with the phrase that the gross national product measures everything except that which makes life worthwhile. How crazy is that our measure of progress, our dominant measure of progress in society, is measuring everything except that which makes life worthwhile? I believe if Kennedy was alive today, he would be asking statisticians such as myself to go out and find out what makes life worthwhile. He'd be asking us to redesign our national accounting system to be based upon such important things as social justice, sustainability, and people's well-being. And actually, social scientists have already gone out and asked these questions around the world. This is from a global survey. It's asking people, what do they want? And unsurprisingly, people all around the world say that what they want is happiness for themselves, for their families, their children, their communities. Okay, they think money is slightly important. It's there. But it's not nearly as important as happiness. And it's not nearly as important as love. We all need to love and be loved in life. It's not nearly as important as health. We want to be healthy and live a full life. These seem to be natural human aspirations. Why are statisticians not measuring that? Why are we not thinking of the progress of nations in these terms, instead of just how much stuff we have? And really, this is what I've done with my adult life, is think about how do we measure happiness, how do we measure well-being, how can we do that within environmental limits? And we created at the organization I work for, the New Economics Foundation, something we called the Happy Planet Index. Because we think people should be happy and the planet should be happy. Why don't we create a measure of progress that shows that? And what we do is we say that the ultimate outcome of a nation is how successful is it at creating happy and healthy lives for its citizens. That should be the goal of every nation on the planet. But we have to remember that there's a fundamental input to that. And that is how many of the planet's resources we use. We all have one planet. We all have to share it. It is the ultimate scarce resource, the one planet that we share. And economics is very interested in scarcity. When it has a scarce resource that it wants to turn into a desirable outcome, it thinks in terms of efficiency. It thinks in terms of how much bang do we get for our buck. And this is a measure of how much well-being we get for our planetary resource use. It is an efficiency measure. And probably the easiest way to show you that is to show you this graph. Running horizontally along the graph is ecological footprint, which is a measure of how much resources we use and how much pressure we put on the planet. More is bad. Running vertically upwards is a measure called happy life years. It's about the well-being of nations. It's like a happiness-adjusted life expectancy. It's like quality and quantity of life in nations. And the yellow dot there you see is the global average. Now there's a huge array of nations around that global average. To the top right of the graph are countries which are doing reasonably well in producing well-being, but they're using a lot of planet to get there. They are the USA, other Western countries going across in those triangles, and a few Gulf states in there actually. Conversely, at the bottom left of the graph are countries that are not producing much well-being, typically sub-Saharan Africa. In Hobbesian terms, life is short and brutish there. Average life expectancy in many of these countries is only 40 years. Malaria, HIV, AIDS are killing a lot of people in these regions of the world. But now for the good news. There are some countries up there, yellow triangles, that are doing better than global average, that are heading up towards the top left of the graph. This is an aspirational graph. We want to be top left, where good lives don't cost the earth. They're Latin American. The country on its own, up at the top, is a place I haven't been to. Maybe some of you have. Costa Rica. Costa Rica. Average life expectancy is 78.5 years. That is longer than in the USA. They are, according to the latest Gallup World Poll, the happiest nation on the planet than anybody, more than Switzerland and Denmark. They are the happiest place. They are doing that on a quarter of the resources that are used typically in Western world. A quarter of the resources. What's going on there? What's happening in Costa Rica? We can look at some of the data. 99% of their electricity comes from renewable resources. Their government is one of the first to commit to be carbon neutral by 2021. They abolished the army in 1949. And they invested in social programs, health and education. They have one of the highest literacy rates in Latin America and in the world. And they have that Latin vibe, don't they? They have the social connectedness. The challenge is that possibly, and the thing we might have to think about, is that the future might not be North American, might not be Western European. It might be Latin American. And
So there's an interesting statement. The future might be Latin American. Now, not only is Costa Rica very rich in happiness, but it is also the most, I beg your pardon, I've moved the wrong way. It is the most prosperous country in Latin America, and that's according to the Legatum Prosperity Index, which is produced each and every year. Now, Costa Rica has preserved more than 25% of its surface area as natural park and forest reserve, and that's never to be developed. And it plans to be carbon neutral as a nation by 2021, which is the 200th anniversary of their independence. More than 95% of their energy requirements come from renewable resources. I think Nick Marks referred to 99%. So I think we'll agree to disagree. We're somewhere between 95 and 99%. 20 years ago, they invested hugely in hydroelectric, wind, and geothermal power. At the time, other countries thought they were crazy. These were very expensive technologies. Now, 20 years later, Costa Rica produces 95 to 99% of its energy from these renewable resources, wind, water, and geothermal power, and other countries look to Costa Rica and those inspired decisions that they made 20 years ago. Costa Rica is a small country, but it's got very big goals. They plan to be carbon neutral as a nation by 2021. And to achieve this, they're going to use various channels, including the planting of lots and lots of trees. And last year they planted 7 million trees. That's more per head of population than anywhere else in the world. Still, to achieve this carbon neutrality, they're going to have to plant even more trees and preserve more land, and that's going to add to the value of existing development land. Costa Rica is a very attractive tourist destination, and the tourism industry in Costa Rica is worth over $2 billion US to Costa Rica, and they intend to concentrate on ecotourism in the future. Tourism in Costa Rica is booming. Just look on the TV. Where did the celebs go on holiday? Last year, in 2010, tourist numbers were up by 9.2% in Costa Rica. But Costa Rica is not just interested in the one-off visitor. They want people to come again and again, and ideally own a home in Costa Rica and spend those dollars in Costa Rica. To do this, they've made the process of emigrating to Costa Rica very straightforward, and you and I have the same land and property ownership rights as a Costa Rican citizen, and that's enshrined in the Constitution. You and I can buy and sell property in Costa Rica without restriction, and that makes Costa Rica very different to many of its neighbours where you can't own property and require structures with local partners and other complex company structures. So the exodus has already begun, and more than 1% of the population is already North American expatriates and retirees, and more are flocking southward daily. Why are they coming to Costa Rica? Well, they're looking for a lower cost of living, stable political environment, access to great healthcare, and a fantastic climate. The cost of living in Costa Rica is about 50% of the cost of living in the USA, and healthcare is a fraction of the price. In fact, so much so that medical tourism is now a booming business in Costa Rica. Imagine living in a beautiful climate in a safe place with great healthcare for a fraction of your current cost of living. And Costa Rica is not just a pretty place to sit on the beach. Costa Rica also has a diversified economy and now generates a significant portion of its income and revenue through high-tech medical and other manufacturing industries. Companies like Microsoft, Dell, Hewlett-Packard, Intel, Johnson & Johnson all have their Central and Southern American headquarters in Costa Rica. And why are they located in Costa Rica? Well, a combination of political stability, lucrative tax breaks, and a highly educated workforce and lower labor costs. These companies have direct investments in Costa Rica totaling billions of dollars. But the taxation benefits don't just apply to multinationals, and Costa Rica is a personal tax haven, and with planning, you can achieve a very, very low or even no tax situation for yourself and your family. Now, Costa Rica had a very positive report issued by the IMF at the beginning of 2009. They said that beginning of 2010, I'm sorry, economic recovery in Costa Rica was firmly underway. They said that economic growth was in the second half of 2009, remained strong in the first quarter of 2010, and the supportive fiscal policy had helped to boost recovery and inflation had moved to low levels. So was the IMF right in their report? Well, yes, they were, because ultimately exports were up by 16.8%, and the economy grew by 4.5% in 2010 and is predicted to grow by 5% in 2011. Now, let's talk a little bit about land and real estate in Costa Rica. There are two big drivers which are going to affect land prices in the short to medium term. The first of which is baby boomer retirees. Over the next decade, over 100 million baby boomers are set to retire, and some estimates suggest that up to 10% will seek to retire abroad. And when they look to retire abroad, they're going to seek safety, good climate, quality healthcare, lower cost of living. Costa Rica ticks all of these boxes. Now, Costa Rica couldn't possibly take in 10 million baby boomer retirees. They only have a population of 4 million right now. But a significant number will look to Costa Rica to retire and have a second long-term home. And these boomers, as a demographic, are armed with more money than at any time in history of the world. The spike in demand will ultimately push prices up. The second big driver is Costa Rica's eco-plans. Do you remember that I mentioned earlier they plan to be carbon neutral as a nation by 2021, and 25% of the country is already zoned as natural park and forest reserve. Well, this aspiration means that they're going to have to zone more natural park and plant more trees. And that's going to reduce the amount of development land available, putting upward price pressure on existing development land. And that process has already started. If you Google recent news about Costa Rica, you'll see lots of coverage about how Costa Rica has gathered funding to preserve a further 1% of its surface area. So there's going to be less and less land available to develop, and at the same time a large influx of people armed with money to spend and wanting to be a part of the Costa Rican dream. So, is Costa Rica a good investment opportunity? Well, I certainly think so. And at this point, let me introduce you to some specific investment opportunities. Now, we represent a number of real estate investments in Costa Rica. Each is a good investment for price appreciation. Now, we can't cover all of our properties in this session, but we feature a couple each time. Before we get to a couple of examples, let's discuss the Central Pacific region, as the two projects we're going to discuss today are located in this area. In a word, we like the Central Pacific region. It's the strongest resort area in Costa Rica and the oldest. It has the strongest developed infrastructure, including hospitals, and the best access, including roads, bridges, and airports. A new freeway or motorway from the capital, San Jose, was completed at the beginning of last year, and that has cut travel time dramatically from the capital and international airport to the beach. A huge new marina in Quepos opened in the last 2 months, and this is another example of the large infrastructure projects being completed in the area. Let's talk about Nature Walk. Nature Walk is our ecological eco-mountain resort community in the making, and it has some very, very special characteristics. First of all, it's away from the beach, so you're not paying inflated beach prices. Secondly, it has a valuable commodity attached to the real estate, teak forestry, which is on all of the lots sold. This gives you a double return, that of the real estate and second of the sale of the forestry. Thirdly, Nature Walk is a highly ecological community with a well-developed master plan and is going to produce a lifestyle environment that will make Nature Walk the ultimate destination resort community in Costa Rica. Nature Walk's eco community has planning underway for a hotel lodge, an eco-hotel, for an equestrian center, for a mountain spa, and of course we have teak homes at Nature Walk. sustainable teak homes built with teak actually grown on site. Nature Walk is still very affordable, and you can purchase 3 lots for under 100,000 and expect that the returns from the teak will pay for the purchase of your land over a 7-year period. The land then becomes a free bet for you. You can build your dream home on or rental, or simply sit with the teak and land investment and let your investment grow. Now, investment in some categories or lots are extremely limited at the moment, and we encourage you to take advantage while inventory still exists and the prices are still reasonable. Nature Walk will also launch a hotel condominium offer next month, and we already have a significant number of people on the waiting list. Now, for those of you that would like an immediate residence or rental vacation property, we have Hacienda Pacifica. Hacienda Pacifica is a 20-unit gated community project, and 6 of those condos are now sold, so just 14 remain. They're brand new and just were completed this month. These condominiums are value priced and tens of thousands less than other comparable condos in the area. Here's just some of the features. So they start at $175,000 US for 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and 1,600 square feet of total area. They're fully furnished and equipped. If you're buying it as a vacation rental, you'll love these. They rent very easily, and we can go over the rental numbers offline. It's a gated community, and there's security at the gate. Financing is available on these units with a 25% down payment. They're located in Quepos Manuel Antonio, with the national park and its beaches on the doorstep and the ocean within 3 kilometers. And the fun town of Quepos and its restaurants and shopping, and of course the new marina, are right on its doorstep. So ultimately, how can you take advantage of these opportunities? Well, first of all, you need to contact us and speak with one of our sales consultants. They'll discuss everything with you and get a better understanding of exactly what your investment needs and requirements are. They can then direct you to the information you need to make a decision. If you're one of those people who likes to see before you buy, we have a fly and buy program, and our sales consultants can explain this to you as well. You can take advantage of our 5-day, 4-night tour of the Central Pacific region of Costa Rica, and if you end up confirming your purchase in one of our developments, the developer will pick up the travel costs. Now, this is only available to those of you who make a commitment to take advantage of this offer and take travel within the next 21 days. So, how do you contact us and register your interest? Well, ultimately, just send us an email to info@costaricainvest.ie and we'll organize for your local sales consultant to contact us. So if you're seriously interested in Costa Rica as an investment opportunity, now's the time to take action. And I strongly advise you to open up your email and send us an email right away.